just so cute. I love Joel.
I'm a big Joel fan. Canada loves you. Your house guests love you. Did a great job.
It's okay to be a little weird because we all have our weird quirks and stuff. And
Joel's the best. Joel, you're the winner, and I will shout loudest. Don't you worry.
Joel's a really smart guy.
Let's hear it, please, for Joel.
What are you at, everybody? This is Joel from Big Brother Canada, season number 4. So we got some extra good news today. Big Brother is coming back for season number 7, but even better news is the fact that we have got a very special guest on Random Thoughts. It is Newfoundland's very own Will Kenny. Will, how's it going?
What are you at? What's going on, Joel?
Not much, man. Excited to have you on here. I'll be honest, I was a little nervous having you on the show, number one, because I'll be perfectly honest. It's nothing to do with you. It's just your personality. I think you know where I'm getting at, and it's the fact that you are the first thing that we saw of you when you were introduced, sort of to the Canadian public, is subtitles underneath your talking, which indicates that you weren't exactly the easiest to understand. But I got some good tips from your good friend Veronica on how to better understand you. So, therefore, I think I've got things figured out. But every once in a while, I might need to stop you and ask you to repeat things a couple times, if that's cool.
Not a problem.
All right, so let's talk about before you actually get into the house to begin with. I want to know from your perspective, were you a huge fan of the show going in?
I honestly never watched much of the show at all. I think I might have watched season 1 or season 2. I can't even remember. But me and my twin brother actually tried out in season 3 together. And we never made it, but we got a little bit far. But no, I never watched the show much. I liked the idea and the concept of it. That's why I tried out.
So what was the motivation then? Just kind of like your brother and some other people, or was it something more than that?
At that time, this time around when I went, obviously it was the money. It was an experience of a lifetime. I just felt like, why not give it a shot kind of thing. And yeah, I got on the show. It worked out good. Not good enough though, because I never won.
Not good enough. I feel like I can relate to you in some way because I know what it's like to be like almost there, where you think you've got it made, and then you don't quite have it. But I guess from your perspective though, coming from way out east, there's a very limited amount of people who have made it on Big Brother Canada from that far away. So what did it mean for you to be on and sort of be representing not only the East Coast, but Newfoundland in particular?
Oh, it was huge, honestly. And like I said, I don't think there was a Newfie on the show since John, Party, Elson, and Kenny. That was season 2, right?
Right.
So I don't think there was a Newfie on since that, so to be able to make it, go on, rep Newfoundland, East Coast, but most importantly, Newfoundland was honestly wicked. It was everything besides $100,000.
Well, you mentioned John Party, and that actually leads me to my first point, which is that obviously you said you weren't a huge fan of the show, but I guess if you would have known anybody from out east like that, John Party is one of the big names, not only in Big Brother circles, but also on the East Coast as well. So knowing that somebody like John Party had done so well and had won the show, did that add some pressure on you that you were like, oh, what if people sort of label me as this John Party type character?
Yeah, when I first got picked to go on the show, I think that's what I was getting labeled as a lot. Being just a typical Newfie, I guess. Charming, funny, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I think I was compared to John a lot before going in and while I was in the show for the first whip. But it didn't take long when I got in there and people realized there were two complete different people.
So what did you do anything in particular to sort of prepare for something like that? Because I'm speaking from my perspective. For people like me, people always label me as like this genius glasses type person, like some people on Big Brother US who have done really well, like Steve or Ian. And so for me, when I walked into the house, I was always about like, how do I minimize that and try to dumb myself down to make people think like, ignore the glasses, look how stupid I am doing these other things. Did you have sort of a strategy to get away from the John Party kind of stigma?
Well, I guess that part of it would be hard, but when I went in, I said I was just going to be true to myself, play my own game, be myself, kind of thing like that. So I just went in, I was myself the whole time, and I didn't feel like I needed to separate because once people saw me and who I am, me and John Party are two different complete people.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we clearly saw that, and I think that's something that's missed a lot of times with fans. Sometimes is that no matter who we walk in there with, yeah, we might be like the big muscular person, so they might label us as some other people who've been on the show before who've been muscular, but we're all sort of different in our own unique way. And obviously you did a pretty good job of getting that stigma out of people's minds, it seems like. So
yeah, for sure. Like we're all going in every season. That was the sixth season, the one that we competed in. So when they're casting, obviously they're not going to cast the same people every year. Maybe people have certain similarities, like me and John both being from Newfoundland and whatnot, or you and someone else with a pair of glasses or whatever. But at the end of the day, everyone is different and plays obviously a different game.
So let's start off. You walk into the house. It's week number 1. You're put almost like literally right into the fire because you're put in hell. You're literally you're put in hell. You got to compete in that competition. Were you thinking still that you were in a decent spot going into that HOH? Because by all accounts, from what I heard from other people, you guys didn't really have any time to solidify any alliances or make any sort of friendships in that limited amount of time before the HOH.
No, 7 of us got put in hell. Johnny won the HOH, but I was 100% nervous. Me and Johnny were only 2 guys. I was the biggest physical-looking threat out of the 7 of us that was there. So, I was nervous 100%. But I think I held my own. I was third last out over Johnny and Paris. I had an extra 100 pounds onto them, so I think I proved myself. Everyone liked me, my personality the first night in there in the first week. Me and Johnny made a deal the very first night. So when it was me, him, and Paris wanted to make a deal, but Johnny wouldn't take it. But me and Johnny also made a deal up in the bathroom just beforehand. I was like, you got my back, he got mine. So I felt a bit safe, but in the Big Brother house, you're never safe, are you?
So explain a little bit, because that kind of led me to my next point, is there was a deal that was talked about. Johnny shot it down. What was the deal ahead of time? And when Johnny shot it down, did that make you a little paranoid of Johnny?
It made me a little paranoid for sure, but beforehand, me and Johnny, 2 of the guys, we were in a different room than the girls or whatever like that. And he basically would just say, I'll have your back, you have mine. So I knew when it was 3 of us, and Paris also, she's a sweetheart from night 1. I knew that she had my back, I had her, same thing. So I felt safe, but at the same time, you never feel 100% safe in her.
No, for sure. So
and Johnny didn't want to take Paris's deal then, but he also never put her up on the block for me.
So I want to know, because I've talked to Maddie and Paris already before. They told me that the 3 of you sort of linked up at day number 2, I believe it was. So from your perspective, at that time when you guys decided to lock it in, was it kind of like just sort of a convenience thing that, hey, I gotta ride with someone, or were you thinking at that time like these are 2 people that I could probably go deep with?
No, Paris and Maddie from night 1 where we all clicked. We laid our heads down in the same room the very first night. But honestly, I knew right off the bat they were my ride or die. I was going to think throughout the whole game. 2 of them were genuine. I knew that we had each other's back throughout the whole game, and it just felt right. And in the house, honestly, the way I'd say is just go with your gut.
Yeah, for sure. So it seems like a pretty straightforward week for you from all accounts. Rosina's put up next to Allie. Was it a pretty easy vote for you to get Rosina out as opposed to Allie in that situation?
No, we were, everyone, especially the guys, more so than the girls, because the girls wanted to keep, well, no, everyone in the house at one point, we were actually going to keep Rosie over Allie. Especially Andrew huddled all the guys into the one room, into the white bedroom, and tried to rally the troops to get the votes to keep Rosie. But the first couple of weeks, you got to kind of do what's best, go with the house. So, and keeping Allie, if I had to keep Rosie, who knows, maybe I mightn't have made Final 4. So I'm glad we done what we done.
Yeah, for sure. Everything considered, hindsight's always 20/20. It's easy enough to look back now, I guess, and be like, oh, if only this had happened, I could have gone all the way. Like the amount of people that will say, well, this and this and woulda, coulda, shoulda. But so Rosina is evicted. It's a unanimous vote. You talked about Andrew fighting really hard. We saw him fighting really hard to flip the votes. So week 2 comes around. Ryan is the head of household. He puts up Andrew and Hamza. Was it easy for you, given how aggressive Andrew was in trying to flip people? Was it pretty straightforward to get rid of Andrew as opposed to Hamza then?
Well, me and Hamza, we were also tight from the very first week, especially going into week 2 when he started to warm up and got to know him a bit more. But 100%, Hamza had my vote.
So what?
Andrew was a great guy too, but also the votes weren't there. And at that point in the House, if it's an unanimous vote, you're not going to go against the House either. But at that point, Hamza was definitely better for my game to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. So we get into the Andrews evicted unanimously after that. And then I want to know, because this wasn't really talked about until week number 3 when Hamza wins the head of household. First off, I'm assuming from your perspective, given that you had a pretty tight bond seemingly with Veronica and also with Hamza, that I'm assuming from your perspective, it didn't really matter who would have decided to take that HOH in week 3, right? Veronica or Hamza? I'm assuming you probably would have felt pretty safe either way, right?
100% hands down would have been safe, yeah, either or.
So I want to know, because this was talked about with Jesse and yourself and Hamza, the idea of an alliance with the 4 guys, with yourself, Hamza, and Derek and Jesse. So how genuine was that alliance, and how early on was that bond made?
There was no alliance. There was nothing there, really. We tried. We talked about it, but I already had my alliance with Maddie and Paris. Hamza was tied in too good with, and Johnny also. I didn't want to go getting too many people, and no, that was a no-go.
Yeah, so I guess from your perspective then, Jesse going home, did Jesse's words when Hamza put him up and then Hamza didn't use the veto, did Jesse's speech at all affect your vote, or did you already kind of have your mind made up that it was probably going to be Jesse, but even before he called Hamza out at that veto?
Yeah, I had my mind made up. I wasn't voting for Jesse.
Did you think that there was a chance that Jesse could be staying given that last-minute plea that he made?
I honestly thought there was a chance when he locked us out of the red room, and I almost thought there was a chance because you never know, right? You never know until Arissa comes on and says, you've been evicted or whatever.
Sure.
But I was confident to say that I knew he was going home all the same.
So one of the other things I want to talk about is your bond with Veronica. A lot of your relationships we didn't really see until kind of they got kicked out of the house. It seems like, and Veronica was one of them that we didn't really see too much of on the edited show, anyways. So what was it about when Veronica walks through on week number 2 when her and Marin come in? What was it about Veronica that really sort of drew you towards her? Not just, I guess, was it just sort of a friend thing that you were cool with her, or did you actually like want a working relationship with her?
No, it's just she walked in on day 6. Her and Marin came through the DR, and honestly, she was kind of excluded. Her and Marin both were, because there was 14 of us, and then there was 2 newbies. So we didn't know if they were. We just didn't know if we could trust them, right? And I felt kind of bad all the same because they were being excluded so much. And Veronica, me and her slept in the same room the very first night she got in there. We hit it off. She was a lot like myself, her personality kind of thing. Bit more crazy, but loved the girl. I knew that I had to get her on my side, and it was an extra vote for me, so why not?
Well, we're going to get to the crazy thing right now, because the crazy thing that took place in week number 4 is the infamous rogue vote, of course, that Veronica cast. First off, I believe you were kind of, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, this was a while ago, but I think, weren't you thinking that it was Paris? Seemed to be a lot of tension between yourself and Paris. Talk about that.
No, I did know who it was, but I thought it could have been maybe Paris because her and Jesse were close in the game. I thought it could have been Veronica because her and Jesse were close in the game. Kayla maybe, but then I was like, Kayla obviously wouldn't do it because she would have came clean and said the scene where Derek voted for Jesse. So I knew it was probably Paris or Veronica, more so Veronica, but she was admitting to it. So I just had to question Paris on it, and that was that.
Yeah, so when you did you know at a certain point, even before Veronica was put up, did you have a gut feeling after maybe a day or so after it had sunk in that, oh, it was probably Veronica?
Oh, yeah, the whole time I was like, that fucking V.
So what did you talk to her about it ever, and maybe ask her like, hey, you know, maybe it's a good idea to own up to this, or were you like, what was your thoughts when you did that? Did you ever confront her about it?
Well, I just wanted to know from I wanted to know because I wanted to know who I can trust, who's going to be home up, Jesus, who's going to be behind my back, and who threw out that stupid Jesus vote. I knew it was Veronica, and I went out and I was like, Veronica, tell me, and I would have kept my word to her. I would have been like, Veronica, tell me if you made the vote or not. I said, I don't care at the end of the day. It's done, it's done. We're moving on. But just tell me so I can know if I can trust you or not. And she was like, Will, listen to me. I didn't cast this vote kind of thing.
Okay.
And that's back on it. Like, that's what fucked her game big time.
Yeah, well, for sure, because then Eric. First off, did you know the back door was coming? Because Hamza knew about it, and Veronica kind of called out Hamza on my show and talked about how Hamza knew all about it. You and Hamza were tight. Were you aware that Veronica was going to get backdoored?
Jesus, I knew about it, but I didn't know about it like right away. Because I was campaigning for Veronica, and then we could have potentially had the votes to keep her. But then I found out all this was going on. The tax was up. Me and Erica was talking because me and Erica got fairly close. Mm-hmm. And I kind of saw it coming, and I had to let Veronica go anyway because she was putting a big target on my back. We were being seen as a duo, so I couldn't campaign for no longer. I needed to go for my solo game like everyone thought. And she was the best option for me to leave.
So the flip side of that, though, is that you were the only one who voted to keep Veronica. Did that cause any sort... I know you told people ahead of time that you were going to do that, so explain why in that situation you were okay with being on the wrong side of the votes, but the other ones you felt it was okay to be with the house.
Well, everyone knew since day 6 when Veronica first walked in, me and her were like tight. Like where you saw one, you saw the other around the house kind of thing. Until day 27, I think is when she got voted out in the double. Mm-hmm. But everyone knew I was going to give her the vote. I wanted to give her the respect out of it. And everyone agreed with it. And they thought that I should be the fella to do it, seeing how we were the closest in the house.
And she is evicted unanimously, and I think that's a good call on your behalf. I think a lot of people get caught up in this. Well, if the people are voting on the wrong side of the numbers, that those people are the ones that need to watch out. But I think there's a certain level of strategy when it comes to that. I know for myself, I had a couple situations where I knew allies of mine were going home, but like your situation, if people know that you're tight, it almost makes you feel less trustworthy to the others if you would have voted against Veronica. Was that your thinking? Was like, if I don't give her my vote, then people are going to be sketched out by me?
Well, that was somewhat part of it, but honestly, at the end of the day, she came in, me and her, I was her number one, she was my number one for the time she was in the game. But she was putting a target on my back, like you said, but I thought that she deserved the vote to go out. I didn't want her to go out without a vote, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wanted it to come from me, and so...
Sure. Double eviction time then. So Veronica is out of the house. Double eviction time. Hamza is the next person to go. How big of a blow was that to your game? I know you still had sort of your core alliance with Paris and with Maddie at that point, but did that sort of hurt your game, do you think? Because it took away maybe an extra option for you?
It did and it didn't, because me and Hamza were so close, but I saw Hamza kind of not drifting away, but he was getting more close with Erica. It was just, I knew it was the right thing for him to go. I hated to see the fella go. He was one of my best allies, one of my best players in the game, but we kind of just started drifting apart a little bit around week 3. So, and Liv wanted to put Maddie up instead of Hamza, but Johnny and Paris and me kind of all had a part in. Let's put Hamza up instead of Maddie, because I knew Maddie was closer ally to me than Hamza was.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So Hamza is evicted. Then I want to know next order of business, and it's some serious business. It is party time in the Big Brother Canada house. First off, I want to know from you, how much do you remember from that party? Because you guys hit it pretty hard.
Oh man, fuck! I was so drunk the next morning. I swear. That was about last night. That was
right.
Yeah, we. I think it was that one. But anyway, we got. Yeah. I got hammered. I got annihilated.
Do you remember anything about that night?
I can remember bits and pieces of it. I still never watched much of the show, so I never saw that far yet.
So how much did you remember? Was there any question at all that you had any sort of recollection of, like, I think this kind of happened then, or were you just kind of like spaced out in your own universe, or what?
That was the one with the frat party, right?
Yeah.
Well, we done that competition and we got on the bed and we went to bed and there was no HOH, so I said, what the fuck kind of thing? So we all went to sleep, loaded, and we woke up and we never had much sleep that night, but I can honestly remember walking to the backyard, getting sick on the way to the competition, and then all I can remember, because the first 2 or 3 out were have nots for the week, and all I said is, please just make a pass so I'm not a have not for the week. But I can't remember none of the questions. I know how I done it, but I done them.
And you know what? It's been a few weeks, and I don't think I had anything to drink for that entire time, and I don't even remember what the questions were. So that's Big Brother for you, man. Things escape you so quickly, and there's so many things to keep track of that I can imagine. Even if you hadn't drank anything, there's a way you can forget so many different things in there so quickly. So
slap brain.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah. So Erica takes home the HOH. Essentially, it's kind of like another win by default, which wasn't the first time at this point that somebody had won the HOH, essentially, just because no one else knew what was going on or knew the questions to something. So Erica takes the head of household. I'm assuming you talked about your bond with Erica. Was it just kind of a friendship thing with Erica, or did you have any sort of a working relationship with Erica at that stage?
At that point in the game, it was definitely more of a relationship that we had, like personal.
Yep.
But there was a bit of gameplay there, but not a whole lot either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I trusted Erica. Like, we had each other's back kind of thing like that. So we trusted each other, yeah, but I knew she wouldn't put me up in the block, and I wouldn't put her up in the block.
Well, I'm wondering, though, because Marin was in that situation. Marin was kind of pleading a little bit to not get put up as the pawn in that situation, and he mentioned your name as well. And Erica talked about like having a bit of fear that there would be sort of a backlash and that you would be a little bit really pissed, and she was scared about that. Would you have been like mad at Erica if she would have put you up even as a pawn? Yeah, pissed.
I would have been rather.
Yeah.
No one wants to get put up, especially when someone says the word pawn, like when Kayla put me up.
Right.
But I probably would have been pissed, but she wouldn't have done it because Erica's a sweetheart.
So my question though to you is, first off, were you aware that Marin was bringing up your name as somebody to get put up even as a pawn as opposed to himself?
No, I wasn't. And Marin, if you're watching this, I know it's now, you little fuck. I'm coming in, dog.
Okay. Well, I was gonna ask something. I was gonna ask because that to me was my logical thinking as like, okay, that's probably why he wanted to get Marin out. But obviously, if that wasn't common knowledge to you, then what was the reason for evicting Marin as opposed to Ryan for you?
Because if anyone is to go up inside the block beside Marin, they're gonna go home. If you're to go up inside of Ryan, you're probably going to stay with her. But if he goes up inside of Ryan or Marin, fuck, you're definitely going to go home for the most part. I didn't want to sit up in the block next to Marin because I felt like probably a bigger threat to Marin. So I didn't want to be the fella that this 1 week, whenever it was to come around, that me and him would be sitting on the block together.
So at that point, was everybody kind of, because we're already like 5 weeks into it at that point. So at that stage, is that the time when people are sort of drawing the lines and not really concerned with going with the house? Because that's the first time it's not really like a lopsided vote or like a unanimous vote. Is that the stage where people were drawing the lines, in your opinion?
Yeah, I would think so, because Kayla, Derek, and Ali voted for Marin to stay that week, and the rest of us voted for Marin to go home. But maybe there was a laundry, maybe not, because Ali needed to do it because she needed to get Ryan out of the game. Kayla and Derek need to do it because they need to get Ryan out of the game. And he was impossible to get out of the game.
So we get to week number 6 when Ryan is seemingly going to get out of the game before an unforeseen twist happens. So, yes, I is right. So Kayla is the head of household. Before we get to the nominations and everything that went down, what did it mean to you personally to get that phone call? I know for myself, I got like maybe a minute or two to see my mom in a competition way down, and this was like 8 weeks or so down the stretch when it happened for me. And I know for myself, I only saw it for 2 minutes, but it was like the longest 2 minutes, and I just absolutely lost it. What was it like for you to get that call from your son?
Well, it was the exact same thing. I stepped down, took the temptation. I think there was a couple of people hesitating. Well, I know Johnny was hesitating whether to take it from home or not. But they let me step down. Kayla made the deal that she went back on. But I stepped down, and I wasn't expecting it when the competition was ongoing. And yeah, you just heard his voice come over the intercom, and it was the craziest thing ever.
So take me through a little bit why you thought in that moment that Kayla was going to hold true to that. Was it just sort of based on some actions that you'd seen from her in the past that you were like, okay, her word is good? Or what was it about that moment that made you think like Kayla's going to follow through on this?
Well, she wasn't after winning fuck all up until this point. So I said, she can't go back on her word, but she had nothing to go back on at this point. So I goes up to her and she says, Will, take the car. She said, you drop your safe, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Roll clip, everyone saw it. I jumps off. Who puts me up on the block but Kayla after she wins and goes back on her word. Even though if I'd stayed in that competition, I'm 99% sure I would have won.
So if you do win that competition, who do you put up on the block if Will is HOH that week?
I'm not sure.
You didn't even okay. Are you? Did you have too many drinks at that point? It was just like it's escaping your memory.
I probably would have put Kayla up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So Kayla.
Me and Johnny had planned to put Derek and Kayla up if we were to win, but Derek took the drive. He took a week safety. But that's not the point because they didn't know that point in the game, and I didn't make no deals with them. She made a deal with me. But if I had to win, I definitely would put her ass up on the block.
So what's going through your mind then when you're talking to Kayla afterwards and you're basically sort of reassuring her that, hey, the deal we made is still good, right? And she's kind of hinting that like, oh well, it technically wasn't that. Are you like, what's going through your mind at that point? Are you like, shit, she's gonna go back on this?
Oh yeah, I could tell from the body language I was getting out from the boss, but I was pissed.
So you're put up against Ryan. Veto isn't used. Come eviction night, how shocked were you when you found out there was a twist and that it was Ryan that was the person that was saved? Were you surprised?
I was shocked, obviously, like you would be, but I was saying that all week, that's why I didn't want to be put up on the block as a palm Jesus. And so did Ryan, because I said, expect unexpected. You never know what can happen until Arisa comes on the stage or on the TV and says who's safe and who's going home, blah, 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 right?
Right.
And just the TV comes on and sees the envelope. All I can think is, fuck. And when she revealed what it was, I don't know how he blamed me, but he did. But I said, I bet you Ron's going to get the safety over me. How, I don't know, but he did.
So, I guess my question is one thing about Big Brother Canada that makes it a little bit more unique than Big Brother US is the fact that there's a lot more audience involvement, and that week was sort of a prime example of it's not just how popular you are in the house, but it also plays a factor on how popular you are with the public as well. Did you ever, while you were in there, either before those weeks or after that, did you ever play to the fans to try to be like, I want to make this entertaining and have some popularity with the fans as well as with the house?
Honestly, Ryan, he's a super fan, and he's after watching like 28 or 29 seasons of the show, so he knew it inside out. I think I didn't even probably watch a full entire season. Season 1, 6 years ago. But no, that's one thing I never used to be doing a lot, was talking to the fans on the camera. I know he used to be doing it a lot. But yeah, it definitely worked to his advantage a little bit. I just made honestly, I just in there farting around the whole time, having a laugh. He was up there in their bed. Please save me, Canada. But Canada, you never saved me.
So, next question then. Ryan is saved. Are you still thinking that no matter who gets put up on the block that you're thinking like shot to the head, like you're done, like you're gonna get evicted?
No, I wasn't thinking that as much, but I was thinking a lot more than when I was sitting on the block besides Ryan. Obviously, everyone was going to vote for Ryan to go home, vote to keep me. But I was like, whoever he puts up, I'm possibly going home right now.
Even when it's Erica being put up on the block, you still think there's a chance you go home?
100%.
Okay, interesting. Okay, yeah, no, I didn't, and you know what? I think you're actually, especially, was it just the fact that you had zero time to really like solidify a campaign with somebody different on the block, or was it just the fact that one thing was a sure thing and now everything's up in the air with someone different?
Well, the thing was, Erica set up on the block beside me. I was a popular fellow in the house, like a lot of people like me, but also a lot of people liked Erica a whole lot more than they liked Ryan.
Right.
So I was like, well, Erica's probably going to get the votes. I'll probably be going home. Which she had Johnny and Ryan's vote. She needed 4 to stay.
Yeah.
Ali and Liv were her 2 closest allies, and they voted against her. So, I was that close to going home.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's weird because I kind of felt the same way my season is that people that you're sitting up against who are big threats, and Erica was a big threat at that point. It's one thing to be a big threat, but if you're also like have some popularity and are well liked, then that's a different thing. Like I was more scared with people that were big threats than I was people that just didn't have good social bonds with other people. So that's a big
100%.
factor that plays a part in it. So next question then is Erica is evicted. Things get really tense. I don't want to talk about the arguments back and forth and the bickering between Erica and Kayla because I've gone through that several times with people. I want to know, from your perspective, you got 2 votes cast against you. Ryan was one of them that owned up to it. Why were you so in Ryan's face and pissed at Ryan at that time?
Well, the thing was, when I flipped out of Ryan, it was me, him. It was me and Johnny in Monkhouse. Ryan was there. So I knew it was Johnny, but Johnny wouldn't face up to it. So what I was doing, I was just trying to get Johnny to confess. And once Ryan started arguing with me, that was it. I went off on him. He went off on me. I got the last word in probably. I don't even remember. But once I started, I couldn't stop with him. Then I was like, "You red-headed fucker."
Okay, so then my question is, you said you knew that it was Johnny. So were you as pissed and getting in the face of Johnny because we only really saw you really go off on Ryan, who seemed to own up to it right away. We seemed to we didn't see that kind of back and forth with you and Johnny like that. What was that about?
Because me and Johnny, he was one of my closest allies the entire game until he made that vote. But we were still close. I went to him. I knew it was him. I was just waiting for him to fess up. And right before bed that night, me and him went out in the backyard for a smoke. And I was like, Johnny, just be straight up. I was like, did you make that vote? Did you cast that vote on me? And he said, yes, I did. And then we just kind of buried it. Because at that point in the game, everything's just water under the bridge. His closest ally, Erica, was gone. So I was his next closest ally. We both need to move on and plan ahead. With Ryan, I just couldn't work with Ryan in the game as much as I wanted to.
Oh, and so I want to ask them. Was it just because the fact that you had just developed more of a trust with Johnny at that point that you were able to let that one go more so than the Ryan vote? Is that why?
I had more trust with Johnny for sure, but I also knew the situation Johnny was put in at the time because I knew Erica was his number 1 at the end of the day, but I also knew that I was his number 2, say. So I knew it was a really, really hard choice for him. I was just waiting for him to face up, and I knew he was alone in the game then for sure. So it was a good ally to have on your side, 100%. He was comfy, so I wanted to keep it that way.
So Derek wins the head of household next. Derek puts up Johnny and Ryan. I think probably not a big surprise to anybody at that point. So
no.
Did from the trio's perspective, from yourself, Paris, and Maddie, it seemed like you and Maddie were more pro Johnny, and it seemed like Paris, from what I was looking at, was hesitant to save Johnny, but then kind of wanted to appease you guys by going along with it. So why were you and Maddie more pro Johnny than am I describing things accurately? Is that about right? First of all,
to an extent, for sure. Three of us used to have a lot of conversations, me, Maddie, and Paris, but me and Maddie, I know myself, I was closer with Johnny than I was with Ryan. I think Maddie definitely was too, because her and Ryan had beef in the house. Mm-hmm. And Paris was, I wouldn't say she was closer with Ryan than she was Johnny, but she definitely had a better relationship with Ryan than she did with Johnny, I think. I think she probably felt safe for there being another vote, and also I think she looked at it probably as a way that Johnny's a big threat. That's another person we don't have to deal with in the game if we get him out.
Well, I want to know from your perspective, because Paris was kind of somebody who had a lot of different relationships. Obviously, herself, you, and Maddie were the ones that lasted the longest as sort of a working relationship. But we saw Paris campaign really hard for Jesse. Jesse went home. We saw Paris campaign for Veronica. Veronica went home. We see Paris seemingly leaning more towards wanting Johnny out at this point. So as these weeks are going on, were you still, did you still trust Paris 100%, even though she was maybe thinking a little bit opposite of yourself and Maddie?
Yeah, I did for sure, but Paris was definitely my number one probably throughout the whole game. Her and Johnny, I'd say, and Maddie was there too. But yeah, I think there was just certain points in the game she thought maybe this move would be better for her game kind of thing, or our game. But at the end of the day, me, her, and Maddie came together as one. We were like, this is what we got to do. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
It's done.
So it was more so like you can have different opinions, but that doesn't mean you're going to go after each other. You guys still have each other's backs, even though you guys might have different ideas.
Yeah, we had each other's back 100%. We never would have put either one of the three of us on the block until it actually came down to it. Like, we got to the final five, and then we still want to put each other up on the block until we had to. You know what I mean?
I want to know, before we get into the following week, I want to know if there was anything Ryan could have done to get your vote at that point. Had he potentially kissed that fish and you could have completed that mission, even though the idea was to fail it, if he would have gone through with what you were attempting to do, could that have saved him?
No, Ryan, I'm still voting you out.
No.
No, Johnny was my number one over Ryan. He knows that.
Okay. Following week, as predicted, Johnny is the head of household. We've seen it time and again. The person that is seemingly the target rises from the ashes and then takes power the following week. Johnny's head of household. Johnny puts up Derek and Kayla. Derek takes the veto. Were you worried at this point that Johnny might, because Johnny had just voted against you a couple weeks back, were you worried that Johnny might put you up as a pawn, or might put up one of the trio as a pawn in this spot instead of Ali or Liv?
I didn't know about the trio as much. No, he definitely want to put either one of the three of us up. Definitely not me, because he gave me his word, kind of thing like that. Like, 100% want to put me up. Maddie and Paris, I can almost say 100% he want to put them up.
So, what ultimately swung the vote in that eviction between Ali and Kayla? What was it that finally got you to be like, it's gotta be Ali out and not Kayla?
Well, I was actually, me and Paris were going to keep Ali at the bitter end while we were on the couch going in to cast our votes. But then Maddie said she was voting to keep Kayla and sending Ali home. And Kayla and Derek made a deal with us. They were going to take us Final Four if we could. So we did make the right decision by keeping Kayla, because it got us to the Final Five, our three-person alliance. So we definitely made the right move. Glad we done what we done. But I love Miss Jackie Jingles.
So I'm wondering at this point, did the fact, because I believe even before Kayla was sitting up on the block on that eviction, didn't she was talking and preaching to you about, like, hey, East Coasters got to make it to the end and I'm going to cut Derek. She had talked to you about this before she was up on the block, right? Or was this after?
Yeah, she's full of shit.
So did any of that talk? You said she's full of shit. So did you at that time though? Did you at that time think like, well, maybe it's another option. Maybe she will cut Derek, or are you just looking back now and thinking she's full of shit because she didn't obviously cut Derek at numerous opportunities?
No, I don't think she was full of shit. Kayla played definitely one of the best games in the house.
Okay.
But she definitely, I knew the whole time, she would have took Derek to the final two with her if she could have. She is in love with the fella. And he's in love with her, I'm sure. But yeah, she definitely would have took her showmates.
And true love lasts a lifetime in Big Brother, or at least a few months here and there. So there's some that can last. There's Brendan and Rachel. There's Jeff and Jordan. There's a few that have stood the test of time. But so Ali is evicted. Then we get into the triple eviction. First off, did keeping Johnny from other people's perspective, did the fact that you guys were speculating about a triple eviction coming up, did that play a part in your alliance's decision at all?
It did and it didn't, because Johnny wasn't able to play in the triple anyway. He wasn't able to compete because he was out going HOH. So it did and it didn't, I guess. Keeping him in the game, it definitely would have been, he would have had a bigger target on his back than what we would have had on our back. So it was definitely good to keep him around, kind of thing.
So Derek wins the head of household in the triple. No surprise, I think, to anybody. He puts up Johnny, he puts up Liv, and he puts up Maddie. Kayla wins the veto. I gotta think it's a very straightforward vote for yourself and for Paris, because you guys hold the power in this situation. It's probably, I'm assuming, the easiest vote to save in that situation, right?
No, honestly,
What?
I didn't say it to Paris at the time, but it was at that point in the game. I couldn't say it to Paris because I was afraid Derek and Jesus Christ. I couldn't say it to Paris because I was afraid Derek and Kayla would get wind of it, because it was right before the veto was used after Kayla won. But I definitely thought about keeping Johnny instead of Maddie, because Johnny would have had the bigger target on his back. Kayla and Derek would have wanted him out. They would have wanted Johnny out. And honestly, if we had to keep him, it probably could have given me a bit further in the game. Who knows? And Johnny definitely would have took me to final too.
Wow. Okay, that's super. I did not. I thought that was like my biggest throwaway question of all. Was that like, okay, it's a no-brainer. They're gonna pick this. That's really interesting. Okay. But obviously that doesn't happen. Johnny is out. Liv is out. We get to the final five. At this situation, how are you feeling? Because you guys do have a numbers advantage in this situation. Obviously, at this stage, it's kind of all about comps, but as the trio, are you guys feeling pretty confident about your chances to take it all the way at this point?
Well, up in the bedroom, the three of us, we're dancing around, we're doing it all. It's three of us against one of them going in, because Derek's out going HOH, he can't compete. We said, well, the odds are the win is slim and on that Kayla was going to win, but she comes, pulls out a huge win. Three of us loses, three of us is pissed off. Maddie goes home.
So before Maddie goes home, this seemed like kind of the week where things kind of fell apart for the trio, because you guys kind of needed to turn against each other in this. So, I mean, your only other option was one of you winning veto and then taking the other one off. But you guys were in a really tight spot in this situation. So did you guys see this coming, that you guys would sort of crumble and go against each other at this point? Or was it just kind of the nature of the situation you were put in?
No, we said, me, Maddie, and Paris, three of us said that if whatever happens, none of us are going to go in campaign against each other. We're not going to play dirty against each other, throw each other underneath the bus or anything like that. But then Maddie played dirty. She went in and threw Paris' name under the bus. I think she might throw him on about casting the vote on the couch when we were flip-flopping back and forth a bit. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was like, oh no, this ain't happening. Kicked Maddie out of the room, called Kayla up. I was like, Kayla, listen, this is the deal I proposed to you. Take it or leave it. I was like, if you don't put me up on the block, I won't use the veto if I'm to win. So I go into the veto competition. I'm probably sitting the prettiest. That's what I'm getting the most shit off about since I got out of the house. But I'm definitely sitting the prettiest in the competition at the time. But you also didn't see the whole thing on TV either, right?
Right. No,
so beforehand, me, Kayla, and Derek made the deal. They were going to put me and Paris on the block instead of Maddie, leave her off the block, because Maddie went and proposed a deal, and then she was after throwing me and Paris under the bus. But I went and said to Kayla, I said, if you don't put me up on the block, I won't use the veto. I swear to God, I'll keep my word. And I wasn't going to use the veto, because at this point in the game, especially when there's only 5 people left, all you got is trust, right?
Right.
So I was sitting the prettiest, and I was standing on my legs, 2 pegs, and I had one above my arm like this. Mm-hmm. And my next one I had to get, before that, Derek said, well, if you don't trap out, you're not going to Final Four. And I said, Derek, what the fuck? I said, we made a Final fucking Four deal. Right? And he said, no, because he was getting nervous because I was looking so good, and I was probably looking the best to win the competition like everyone else saw. So anyway, he said, no, if you don't jump, you're not going to Final Four. So the next one I had to get was one of the ones that I was standing on with my leg. So it could have been near impossible. I don't think I honestly would have won that competition the way that Kayla went out and won it in the end. Mm-hmm. So I could have stayed in the competition, tried to win like everyone thinks I should have done. But then I more than likely potentially could have fallen off, would have broke Kayla and Derek's trust. They would have won the veto, used the veto, put me up on the block, and sent me home 5th instead of making it to Final Four.
Right.
And that's what happened, and that's how it went. They made the deal. You got to do what you got to do. It's different when you're in the game and you're in situations like that. And then competitions looks a lot fucking harder than what they are.
Yeah.
Excuse the language.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good. It's obviously I can relate to it because I got a lot of blame and a lot of shit from people for the way that I handled my veto, because I was kind of in the same situation as you in my season, was that I was part of a trio, and it actually like brought back a lot of really bad memories for me. I was in like almost as an exact similar situation in my season. It was the same competition too that the trio of us lost, and it was on me to win. So I was put in a really tough position, and I was trying to convince each side to throw the veto to me. It obviously failed, and it backfired on me. But there is a certain. So you didn't think you had a chance at all in that veto. So you were kind of just trying to save face. Is that sort of what I'm reading into this?
I definitely thought I had a chance. I probably could have won it. You'll never know because Kayla ended up winning. But the next one I had to get, we only had 3 pegs. The one I was standing on up there, and I had 2, one foot on each peg. The next one I had to get was my right foot. So for me to bend down, almost 7 feet tall, sideways, and get that and be only holding on to 2 pegs. And I had an extra 100 pounds, probably 150 pounds on Kayla. So it was definitely a lot harder. It was different in the spur of the moment. And there was definitely a good chance I couldn't have won. And if I had to stay in and not take Derek's deal at the time, they probably would have put me up on the block.
Okay, so
they might say otherwise, but that's probably what would have happened.
Do you think if you're up on the block against either Maddie or Paris, there's a chance that you still stay in the house though, or do you think that against either one of them you'll go home?
It's tough for sure. It depends back on a scenario, but I think on the block against Maddie, I probably go home, or she probably goes home. I stay.
Yep.
Against Paris, it's kind of a toss-up for both of us.
Yep.
At that time in the game, so I'm not really sure, but I think I made the right decision, and I got myself to where I had to get. Because I don't think I would have won that competition, I probably would have went that 5th.
So at the final 5, when you're casting your vote to evict, did the fact that Maddie was throwing your name out there at the start of that week, did that factor into you evicting her, or were you always going to keep Paris no matter what, even if all that stuff hadn't happened?
See, it's tough to say. I definitely would have kept Paris because Paris was my number 1 threat the whole game. She had my back, I had her back. We got pissed off with each other a lot of times in the house, but we're each other's number 1, so I think I would have overall kept Paris. But when Maddie got evicted, the following HOH competition was a trivial one that Maddie probably would have won, more than likely the one that Paris won. So, but Paris still won it, so I was still sitting good anyway. So, yeah, I definitely would have kept Paris.
Yeah, for sure. So we get into the Final 4. Paris wins the HOH. Obviously, in Final 4, it's all about the veto. That's the person who holds all the cards. So I'm assuming you probably wouldn't have been as excited in that situation, knowing that you could still go home, as opposed to like any other week. It's a good thing when your number 1 ally is HOH. But I'm assuming this week is not necessarily you feeling all that comfortable at that spot, right?
No, because Paris won. She was putting Kayla and Derek up on the block the whole time, but still, all it depends on that point of the game. So who wins the veto? Because if someone wins the veto and he takes himself down, I'm the only person left to go up. Mm-hmm.
So we saw you have a conversation with Derek about going to the end in that situation. So I'm assuming, was that something that you were just saying to kind of cover your bases? Because you were essentially kind of covering your bases last round as well, where you made that deal with Derek and Kayla. Was this kind of another situation of, you know what, just in case Derek gets power, I can still get covered in this situation down the road?
Well, the thing was that Derek and Kayla was put up on the block. We were going into the final. He knew that if Kayla won, obviously she was going to take herself down. I'd go up. But anyway, I I was waiting for Kayla or Derek, whoever had to come to me first, to make the first pitch to say if they won, they'd have my back and I'd have their back kind of thing. And that's just so happened that Derek came to me up in the bat room, came to me right away, and he was like, listen, Will, he was like, I need your help. He was like, if you win, have my back. If I win, I'll have your back kind of thing, right? And I believe he won 100%. He would have 100% over Kayla had my back at that point in the game, I think.
The other thing that was pointed out on the show was the fact that you had had a talk with Kayla. Obviously, Kayla talked beforehand a lot about wanting to take you to the end. Truthful or not, we'll never know for sure because she was never put in that position. But I think based on actions, we can kind of gauge from where she was going to go with that. So I want to know from you. You talked about how you were going to poison the jury about Kayla, and that she would not get your vote if she voted to evict you after she took home the veto at Final Four. Was that just kind of another tactic to hope that maybe Kayla would save you in that spot, or what was the reasoning behind that sort of chat with Kayla?
No, honestly, when I left the house, obviously I was pissed off, but I didn't go into the jury as a bitter jury member at all, and I didn't go into the jury house trying to poison the jury. But it was just all strategic at that point in the game. I was just trying to get in her head a lot.
Did you think sitting on the couches at that stage, because Kayla had talked about cutting Derek a lot, did you actually think that there was a chance at all, or did you kind of think you were done at that stage?
No, I knew I was done. Before I had my bag packed, Derek didn't even pack his bag, I don't think. I knew I was going home.
Right. So
I was dressed to go out onto stage and shit. He was still going around in his pajamas or whatever he was doing. Like, I knew I was going home.
So going into the jury house, when you walk out for finale and you find out that it's Kayla versus Paris, first off, is there any situation where you would have given your vote to Kayla? Like, hypothetically speaking, if Kayla had followed through and cut Derek, and then it's Kayla wins final HOH and takes Paris, does that change your mind at all, or are you pretty solid with voting for Paris?
Yeah, it definitely would have. My biggest thing is for sure, Kayla made a dumb game move getting me out. She had 2 weeks in a row to get Derek out, never done it. Then Paris won the 2 biggest HOH competitions of the whole entire season. Paris brings Kayla to the final 2. Paris, hands down, played the best game overall, 100%. She was getting my vote.
If it's Derek versus Kayla, is Derek getting your vote or is it Kayla?
Well, then again, it's the same thing. It depends who's after winning the last couple of competitions. Your speech, people might not think it, but what you're pitching to the jury to try to get their vote, why you deserve to win, that's a huge part of your game.
I want to know in a hypothetical world. Now, this is everything I've said over the last couple of questions has been hypotheticals, but I want to know if by some crazy coincidence somehow Kayla decides that Final Four was the time to cut Derek. So she cuts Derek. Hypothetically, it's yourself, Paris, and Kayla in the Final 3, and you happen to win the Final 3 HOH. Would you have cut Paris, or would you have chopped off Kayla in that situation?
I
mean, it's all hindsight. Yeah.
It's tough for sure, because I think with Kayla in the jury, I probably would have had Ali's vote, Maddie, Paris, and Johnny. On side of Paris in the Final 2 situation, me and Paris, I would say we're going to take each other to the Final 2. And honestly, you don't know, and I would know because I wasn't in that situation. You don't know unless you're there. But you're there to win $100,000 at the end of the day, so you got to do what you got to do, and whoever's best to bring to a Final 2 with you.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about like taking home the $100K at that point. So friends and everything like that is out the window, and I think that's kind of understood with everybody. Yeah, everything is out the window. So, lastly, for you, Will, what is one thing? What was a highlight for you? If there's like one moment in the house, I know there's like so many when you're in there that you kind of take away from it. But what was one thing that you're gonna take away from this experience? One major highlight for you?
Obviously, all the 15 brand new best buddies you made in the house, but one highlight for sure would probably be the kitchen party we had, because it just reminded me back home here in Newfoundland, and I think it was down to the final 9 of us then, and we were all gelled so close because it's different, the final from the last 10 than it is from people getting voted out week 1, 2, 3, and 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just grow that closer bond. We had some beers. We got on the good bars. We had the music and stuff. So Kitchen Party was my favorite night of the show.
Well, Will, this was a lot of fun to have this chat with you. I'm bummed I didn't get to meet you in person following the finale, because you were one of the people that was a really fun and exciting character and brought a lot to the show. I want to thank you for doing this with me. For people who want to follow along with what's going on in the life of Will Kenny, plug time for you. How can people follow you?
On Instagram, Will Kenny 709. That's the area code Newfoundland. And everything else is on my Instagram to follow me on. So Will Kenny 709.
And if you guys like this, feel free to give it a thumbs up in the section below. Feel free to like and subscribe. Check out more exciting content on my YouTube channel. And stay tuned, because I've got a special Q&A segment planned that is going to be posted tomorrow on my channel with Adam Klein, the winner of Survivor Millennials Gen X. You got to meet Adam at finale, didn't you, Will?
Adam, when you're talking down in the mall, you give him a shout out from Will Kenny. Adam's the man. Me and him was on the same team, actually, when we went away to Barrie.
Yep.
We had like a Survivor challenge up there, and it was me, him, Maddie, Liv, Peely, McCrae for the US season was on our team. I can't even remember who else, but we killed it. Adam, you're the man.
Except the one thing Adam's not the man in is that me and him made a deal. Me and him have met on a few occasions, and one of my trademarks from Big Brother Canada was I had a little finger gun salute that everybody, there was GIFs about me with all of it in, and I made a deal with him that he could have that if I had the title of Survivor Millennials versus Gen X. So I have that title, but I'm not allowed to do a finger gun pew pew salute that fans have me for. So yes, like that. I can't. But you know what? This is all like recorded in audio, so maybe he won't even know that I do this right now. So we'll see. But nonetheless, podcast tomorrow, Q&A session with Adam Klein. A lot of fun working with Adam, and a lot of fun talking with Will. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this, and we will talk to you guys next time. Toodles!